Internal family systems through a transactional analysis lens. Um, these are my thoughts about how you could understand parts in a dyad, two people interacting. And for the purpose of this video, it will be a uh, romantic partnership, but it could also be um, friends, other family members, parent to child, literally, and coworkers, um, boss to employee, that kind of thing. So um, here's the parts within the internal family systems model, and imagine that these are two people facing each other, um, and within each person we have self energy that is not a part. That is our true self, our core self, our soul. And we are relaxed and connected when we are in self energy. And then we have two types of protectors, the managers and the firefighters. And what they are protecting is our exile, or exiles, either from being further traumatized or from hijacking the system. So essentially protecting in a way against the exiles being erupting. So in transactional analysis, which comes from a book, I'm okay, you're okay, way back, I believe, in the 70s. What we would do is talk about parent, adult, child, and the ways that two people can relate from those sort of ego states. So I have been playing around with the idea that our managers are our parent state. When we are in our self energy, we're in adult. And assuming we are chronologically adults, and that firefighter states are sort of adolescent teen states, and are, although they can have started before adolescence, and our exiles are a child state. So it isn't probably this rigid. In other words, I think a firefighter could be a child state. And a manager could also be a teen or a child state, in a sense that our managers could have started quite young. But what I am thinking is that, so let me describe a little bit more the parts. The A manager is a protector that is trying to prevent problems, prevent conflict, prevent re-experiencing uh, the exile energy or trauma. Um, and the firefighter is when that doesn't work, and something from the exile trauma history or trauma memories or pain or shame is is sort of leaking out, erupting, hijacking the system, and so it's a part or a response that extinguishes that. Um, and usually the manager part and the firefighter part have different strategies and are polarized and not appreciating um, their different strategies. So um, I wanted to just explore the different ways that these parts could interact between two people. So let's go to the next slide. So this was my image of two people being able to be together in self energy. And then if we think about sort of polyvagal um, model or aspects or function, neurophysiology, that would be when two people are connected and feeling safe. It's the social safety system, and it's co-regulation. It's where one person's distressed and the other person is able to comfort them, and then they're both calm. And It's when we're able to make eye contact, when we're fine with touching each other, of course, um, to the level that we feel like it, that we're, near each other and enjoying each other's energy and feeling present and focused. And this would be couples mindfulness as well. And the book, from a DBT perspective, that could also be used as a resource here is The High Conflict Couple by Frazzetti. And it essentially is a step-by-step guide for couples um, to experience this state more. Um, Now, as we know, that couples wouldn't come to therapy or have problems if we all were able to be in self energy together all the time, but that's not typical. So let's look at some other configurations. What do I have next? Okay, so here would be what I would call a power struggle between two people's manager states. So I have a way that I want to control things, and the other person has a way they want to control things. And, it's possible that we could uh, uh, come to a compromise, but most likely this is where it's like, no, I need it to be this way. And nope, I need it to be this other way. So parent to parent, meaning the part of you that is in a preventative manager state. Now, this could also play out, keep in mind that one person could be in a fixed protector, such as a perfectionist state, or workaholic state, or overachieving state. And the other person could be in a procrastinator state. It's still a manager state where they are trying to control through avoidance. Um, and that would still be a conflict. Okay. So here is kind of a typical interaction in transactional analysis where one person is in their manager state and the other person is in their teen, or it could be child state, but for this purpose I put teen. And I filled the gap between them in orange because it would be the blending of pink and yellow. And essentially what's happening is um, the person who is over controlled is judging the other person who is in their addiction. So this could be a codependent to an addict. Um, and they're judging them. It's an external polarization of what happens within us. So perhaps the person in the parent state has an addiction, but they really hate themselves when they go into the addiction, and they over control it. So maybe this person had a history with eating disorders and they've got it precariously under control, and anybody who's out of control, or maybe they have it hidden and controlled. Um, Anybody that's out of control is not going to be someone they respect, and so this person is going to be cleaning up all the messes, and possibly enabling the person in their firefighter state, but resentful about it, angry about it, and the firefighter state for the person in their addiction, or other ways a firefighter could manifest would be, escaping into TV or Facebook, or dissociating and just not being emotionally present. They're going to feel controlled. They're not going to feel motivated. They're really not going to want to uh, or be able to perhaps get out of their addiction, because we also have the level of shame. So when you look at the states and shame, uh, shame that we experienced as a child that was traumatic will reside in the exiles, and that's being suppressed and protected. And a person in their parent state or their manager state has been succeeding at keeping that down. And we do that by shaming ourselves, shaming that child state, or shaming our own firefighter state, and therefore we're probably going to apply shame outward towards other people and their states that we don't approve of. So the firefighter is more vulnerable to their own shame, and therefore having to use an addictive, down-regulating process more. And so when they're being shamed, that's partly why they would just continue to have to be in their addiction. So I'm not, it sounds like, but I'm not trying to blame the person that's in the manager state. All parts are welcome. All parts have a positive intent. The parent wants to fix, wants to protect, wants to, you know, get that other person out of the firefighter state. It's just not probably working. All right. So here's another possible way that people can interact. Okay. So perhaps that wasn't working, and the person who had been in their manager parent state says, if you can't fight them, join them. And so they begin to maybe drink with their partner, or their partner drinks or uses drugs, and they just go into their own addiction with food or whatever. This could also be a uh, interaction with any two people who co-sign each other's addictions, who, you know, maybe they are spontaneous and enjoying it at first, and it doesn't have a lot of consequences till later, but there's a mutual agreement, conscious or otherwise, that you know, let's escape the world together. All right. Okay, so here's another possible dynamic, and I think that this could potentially happen subconsciously at the beginning of relationships, which is a sort of subconscious, unspoken agreement. Hey, I didn't get what I needed when I was a child, so I'm kind of hoping that you will fix that, and you parent my child and I'll parent your child. This could be healthy or not, somewhat like by degrees, in the sense of um, I'm describing the lower expression of it, where you're not responsible for your own child and putting on to your partner these expectations that this time it'll be different, and you'll love me in a way my parents didn't love me, and so on. But essentially, what you're doing still is abandoning your own inner child. The higher level that I think this could be expressed is simply that making the agreement, maybe from each of your manager states, that you'll control your firefighters from hurting the other person's exile. So not taking responsibility for the exile, but do no harm, kind of controlling yourself, so that you don't get into power struggles and projection that hurt the exiles of each other. So from that, here would be a healthy response to each other's exile. If we imagine that the goal, and this comes from transactional analysis, the goal of a healthy relationship is to be in that first state where we are adult to adult, or in the internal family systems model, the self energy together. So not in a parent state, not in a teen state, not in a child state. If we, the person on the left is maintaining their full connection with their brain, staying relaxed so that they don't go into lizard brain, and they come upon their partner revealing a past trauma, or perhaps in a managed state or a firefighter state, but being able to invite the the partner to move back into adult self energy. What this would look like or require is discussions where both people are integrating and aware of all of their parts. Both people have made a commitment to start a self journey, to be in self leadership, and the person whose child is coming up has let their partner know in advance, hey, these are the things that you can direct me to do when I seem to be in a child trance, which would be called age regression. And you can direct me to do these self care things that will allow me to um, update the part, let the part know where we're in our current time, that we're not in the trauma that might be being re-experienced, that we're safe, that we do have self-leadership, that the rupture has been repaired. Um, and what that would look like rather than at a theory level is, hey, honey, it seems like you're upset. Like, how about if you take a nap? Or do you think you're low blood sugar? Here, how about to have some cheese? Um, or you let me know that it's always helpful for you to call your sister. Why don't you do that? And then we'll check in when you feel comforted. Now, that would be directing someone to in the polyvagal system, the social safety system of hearing the voice of someone that they feel comforted by. You can also use recordings of the um, human voice, books on tape. That's why maybe sometimes people listen to TV. Um, reruns of sitcoms that aren't threatening. Um, any number of strategies so the relationship would have this complex agreement that rather than when someone's exile or maybe even firefighter is up, that the partner reacts from their parent uh, manager state, either by rescuing or attacking. The partner stays in a place where they try to maintain their own uh, self energy and just gently guides the other person back to um, their ways that they become reconnected again with their own self energy. And then this would return them to um, the original slide, um, or actually, let's see, I think it was this one, where that person could eventually get back to self energy and they could be feeling safe together again. Remember that it only takes 20 seconds for someone to go into a part, in other words, lizard brain, and be disconnected from self energy. But it takes 20 minutes or longer to calm down and reconnect. So the other piece would be that this this process would involve being able to have a rain check agreement, which means, hey, we're upset, but let's separate, go to two different rooms for 20 minutes, and we will come back and work this out. Which reminds me, let's see which one this would be. Okay, so in this diagram, it could also represent the fear of abandonment and fear of engulfment polarization. The fear of abandonment would be in the firefighter person, where the exile is coming up, which is a traumatic history of having been abandoned, and they're desperately wanting resolution of a conflict because they need to know they're connected to their partner. Actually, what they need is the social safety system to help regulate them back into their self energy. However, the person in the manager parent state is in fear of engulfment. So their exile of having had traumatic intrusion, where someone would not recognize their boundaries, whether this was emotional abuse, physical, sexual abuse, there was some kind of way that they felt obliterated by another person's demands. So they may not be conscious of that, but they could be going into an angry, rejecting, shaming manager state in order to protect their system. And so they reject the needs of the partner who is asking for some kind of reassurance because it's a cost to them. I will tell you that I was a long time fear of abandonment person. And then I was in a relationship with someone who feared abandonment more than I did. And it was the first time I ever felt the response from the other side, which is actually kind of revulsion, of like, oh, don't grab at me like that, and that sounds awful. But in another relationship, I was able to see that the amount of discomfort that it feels to be in the state of abandonment or perceived abandonment, um, the is that discomfort is matched by the opposite experience of fear of engulfment. It is really uncomfortable um, for the person who has the trauma history behind that. So um, that was my thinking a lot about uh, this dynamic, and my hope is that this will improve some insight into your relationship or someone's relationship that you are wanting um, to improve or help. And thank you for listening.